name is Marcus Thompson, and 3 months ago I almost died in the most terrifying way you can imagine. I was sleeping in my own home in Pensacola, Florida, when something woke me up in the middle of the night. It wasn't a sound, but a strange sensation. A kind of pressure on my right arm, like something heavy was pressing against my skin. At exactly 3:47 a.m., according to the glowing clock on my nightstand, I felt a searing pain shoot through my forearm. It was like someone had stabbed 2 red-hot needles into my flesh. I woke up instantly, screaming, and when I turned on the bedroom light, I saw something that made my blood run cold. A water moccasin, which I later found out was a nearly 5-foot-long cottonmouth, was coiled up in my blankets. Its eyes were 2 yellowish orbs glowing under the lamplight, and its mouth was wide open, showing the white, cottony interior that gives the species its name. It had just bitten me, and I could see the 2 perfectly round puncture wounds on my arm already starting to bleed. My first instinct was to jump out of bed, but the snake moved faster than I could process. It slithered across the floor and disappeared under my dresser, leaving behind only the musky odor I'd never noticed before, but now instantly recognize. I've lived alone since my divorce, in a 2-bedroom house in suburban Pensacola. My ex-wife Carol took our kids to Atlanta after we split up, so there was no one around to help me. I looked at my arm and saw that the bite marks were getting deeper and redder. A dull ache began spreading up my forearm, inching toward my shoulder. I called 911 immediately, but when the dispatcher asked what kind of snake had bitten me, I had no idea. It was dark brown, about 5 feet long, with a white mouth, I said, still in shock. She told me to stay calm and avoid moving too much, as that could cause the venom to circulate faster. While I waited for the ambulance, I tried to figure out how the creature had gotten into my house. I live near the bayou and sometimes see snakes in the yard, but I never imagined one would make it inside. My house has a small, partially underground basement, and I suspect it found its way in through an opening I hadn't noticed. The pain was getting worse. It started as a burning sensation, but quickly turned into something far more intense. It felt like my arm was being eaten from the inside out. When I looked at the bite again, I saw the skin around it starting to swell and turn a dark purple. The paramedics arrived in under 10 minutes, though it felt like hours. When I opened the door, 2 men and a woman rushed in carrying medical gear. The female paramedic, a woman in her 40s with red hair pulled back in a ponytail, immediately examined my arm. "Where's the snake now?" she asked while checking my pulse. "Under the dresser in the bedroom," I said, pointing toward the hallway. "We need to identify the species to know which antivenom to use," said one of the paramedics, a tall, lean man who looked like he'd dealt with this kind of thing before. They gave me oxygen and began prepping a stretcher. Meanwhile, the 3rd paramedic went into my bedroom with a long stick and a plastic container. A few minutes later, he returned holding the box. "Cottonmouth," he announced. "Water moccasin. Highly venomous." My heart started racing. I'd heard of these snakes. They're known for being aggressive and having potent venom. The paramedic wrapped a pressure bandage around my arm and explained it would help slow the venom's spread. "We're taking you to Sacred Heart Hospital," she said, helping me onto the stretcher. "They have the specific antivenom for cottonmouth bites." During the ride in the ambulance, my condition started to deteriorate quickly. The pain had spread through my entire right arm, and I began feeling severely nauseous. My vision blurred, and I could feel my heart beating irregularly. "Blood pressure dropping," I heard the paramedic say over the radio. "Patient showing signs of cottonmouth envenomation. ETA 5 minutes. When we arrived at the hospital, a medical team was already waiting. They wheeled me straight into an emergency room, where a young doctor, Dr. James Mitchell, began examining my arm. The swelling had spread from my wrist to my shoulder, and my skin had turned a frightening shade of purple. "We're starting antivenom immediately," he told the nurse. "2 vials to begin with, and monitor his vitals closely." The antivenom arrived in under 30 minutes, but to me it felt like hours of agony. Dr. Mitchell explained that they were going to administer Crofab, a polyvalent antivenom that works against cottonmouth, copperhead, and several species of rattlesnakes. The nurse inserted an IV line into my left arm, since my right arm was completely swollen and purple. "We'll monitor your reaction to the antivenom," Dr. Mitchell explained as he checked my pulse. Some people have allergic reactions, so we need to go slowly. The first dose was administered slowly. I felt a strange sensation running through my veins, like my blood was thickening. My blood pressure kept dropping, and I could see the concern on the medical team's faces. About an hour after the first dose, my condition began to stabilize. The searing pain in my arm faded into a dull, constant ache. The swelling had stopped getting worse, but my right arm was still 3 times its normal size, with a disturbing mix of dark purple and yellow-green discoloration. "How are you feeling?" Dr. Mitchell asked, examining the snakebite marks. "Better than before," I replied, trying to move my fingers, "but it still feels like my arm's going to explode." "That's normal," he assured me. "Cottonmouth venom causes tissue necrosis. It literally kills cells. We'll need to monitor closely to see if surgery is necessary to remove any dead tissue." That was the first time I fully grasped how close I'd come to dying. Cottonmouths are known for their hemotoxic venom, which destroys red blood cells and tissue. If I hadn't made it to the hospital quickly, I could have lost my arm, or worse. On the second night in the hospital, I started having nightmares. I dreamt of snakes coming out of the walls, the floor, the ceiling. I'd wake up drenched in sweat, compulsively checking my hospital bed for anything crawling on it. The nurses assured me it was a normal reaction to trauma and the venom. Dr. Mitchell visited the next morning with blood test results. "Your liver enzymes are elevated," he explained, "which means the venom affected your liver. We also see signs that your blood clotting is impaired." "What does that mean?" I asked, dreading the answer. "It means we'll need more anti-venom and extended monitoring. You're going to be here for at least 3 more days." I called my sister Rachel, who lives in Tampa, to tell her what had happened. She immediately canceled her weekend plans and drove to Pensacola to be with me. When she arrived and saw my arm, she started crying. "Marcus, you almost died," she said, holding my left hand. "How did that snake even get into your house?" That question haunted me. Once I was stabilized, I asked Dr. Mitchell to call a pest control specialist to inspect my home. They discovered an opening in my basement, where some bricks had come loose from the foundation. The bayou area nearby was experiencing a drought, and snakes were seeking out water sources. "Cottonmouths are semi-aquatic," the pest control expert explained. "With the drought, they move closer to homes looking for moisture. Your house has plumbing in the basement, so it probably followed the scent of water." By the 3rd day, my condition had improved significantly. The swelling in my arm had gone down by about 50%, and I could move my fingers without extreme pain. Blood tests showed my liver was recovering, and my blood clotting had returned to normal. Dr. Mitchell showed me pictures of the healing process. "You got lucky," he said. "We've seen cases where people lost muscles, tendons, even bones because of cottonmouth venom. You're going to have scars, but you should regain full function of your arm." During my recovery, I became obsessed with researching cottonmouths. I learned they're among the most aggressive snakes in North America and can strike multiple times in a single attack. Their venom contains enzymes that literally digest tissue from the inside out. In 2017, there were 255 reported cottonmouth envenomations to U.S. poison control centers, but only 10 led to serious complications, and none were fatal. The hospital bill arrived 2 weeks later, $47,000. Fortunately, my health insurance covered most of it, but I still had to pay $8,000 out of pocket. The anti-venom alone cost $12,000 per vial, and I'd received 4 vials. The scariest part? Learning that cottonmouths are nocturnal. They hunt at night, exactly when I was bitten. Dr. Mitchell told me the snake had probably been looking for a place to hide during the day when it entered my house. "You were lucky to wake up when it bit you," he told me. "If you'd stayed asleep, the venom would have had more time to spread." Cases like Zamar Miller's, he got bitten but received treatment right away, tend to have much better outcomes. Before I was discharged, Dr. Mitchell gave me strict post-treatment instructions. "You'll need physical therapy to fully regain arm strength, and for the love of God, seal every opening in your house. Cottonmouths can wait in hiding for hours, and you don't want to go through this again." When I was finally discharged from the hospital, my life had completely changed. My right arm was covered in scars that looked like small craters where the venom had necrotized the tissue. The snakebite marks were the most prominent, two small circular indentations that would never fully disappear. Rachel insisted on staying with me during the first week back home. She had taken time off from work and turned my guest room into a kind of medical command center, with all my medications neatly labeled and organized by time. "You can't be alone yet," she insisted when I tried to convince her to go back to Tampa. "What if you have a delayed reaction to the antivenom? What if the infection comes back?" She had every reason to worry. Dr. Mitchell had warned me about possible late complications. Cottonmouth venom can cause coagulation issues that appear weeks after the initial bite. Some patients develop nephrotic syndrome, where the kidneys stop functioning properly. That first night back home was terrifying. Every sound made me jump. The AC turning on, the pipes settling, even the ticking of the kitchen clock. I couldn't bring myself to sleep in my bedroom. Instead, I spent the night in the living room with all the lights on, compulsively checking under every piece of furniture. "Marcus, you can't live like this," Rachel said the next morning, finding me still awake on the couch. "You need professional help." She was right. I scheduled an appointment with Dr. Lisa Rodriguez, a psychologist who specialized in post-accident trauma. During our first session, she told me I was suffering from PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. "That's completely normal after an event like this," she reassured me. "Your brain is in a state of hypervigilance, trying to protect you from another dangerous situation." Physical therapy for my arm started 2 weeks after I got home. My therapist, Robert Chen, had worked with snakebite victims before. He explained that the venom had caused significant muscle damage in my forearm. "We're going to start slow," he said, gently manipulating my arm. "The venom destroyed some muscle fibers, but with time and effort you should recover about 85% of your original strength." The exercises were painful and frustrating. Simple movements I used to do without thinking now required intense concentration and effort. Squeezing a tennis ball was exhausting. Writing my name was nearly impossible in the first few days. During this period, I became obsessed with learning everything about cottonmouths. I found out they're found all across the southeastern U.S., from Texas to Virginia. Florida has one of the largest populations, especially near swamps and bayous like the one near my home. I learned that cottonmouths are excellent swimmers and can stay submerged for up to 45 minutes. They're known for their aggression. Unlike many snakes that retreat when threatened, cottonmouths often stand their ground, opening their mouths to display the white interior that gives them their name. The pest control specialist, David Miller, came to my house 3 times during that first month. They completely sealed off the basement, installed mesh screens over the vents, and applied a natural snake repellent around the property. "Cottonmouths are territorial," David explained. "If one lived here for a while, others might try to claim the same spot. We need to make your home completely inaccessible." He also taught me how to spot signs of snake activity: scaly trails on dusty surfaces, musky odors, and tiny tracks in the mud after rain. Things I never thought I'd need to know, but now were crucial to my peace of mind. A month after the bite, I began having recurring nightmares. Always the same scene. I'm asleep. I feel something moving under the blankets, and when I lift the sheets, dozens of snakes are coiled around my legs. I'd wake up screaming, drenched in sweat. Doctor Rodriguez prescribed a mild anti-anxiety medication and taught me breathing techniques. "Trauma creates vivid memories," she explained. "Your brain is trying to process what happened, but it's doing it in a way that's interfering with your sleep and quality of life." The most disturbing realization was that this wasn't an isolated incident. After researching online, I found dozens of similar stories. People bitten by snakes inside their own homes. A man in Alabama was bitten by a rattlesnake that came in through an open window. A woman in Mississippi woke up with a coral snake in her bed. "This happens more often than people think," Dr. Mitchell told me during a follow-up. "Snakes seek shelter during extreme temperatures, and houses provide the perfect environment, dark, dry, and full of hiding spots." 6 weeks after the bite, my arm had regained about 60% of its original strength. The scars were still visible, but the discoloration had faded from purple to light pink. I could write again, though my handwriting wasn't quite the same. What bothered me the most was people's reactions. When I told my story, some didn't believe me. "How can a snake get into your house?" they'd ask, skeptical. Others were morbidly fascinated, wanting to see the scars and hear every gory detail. "This changed you," Rachel observed during one of our talks. "You're more cautious now, more aware of your surroundings." She was right. I had developed a level of hyper-awareness that extended into every part of my life. I checked my car before getting in, carefully inspected any dark areas before approaching, and always carried a flashlight when going outside at night. 3 months after the bite, I finally managed to sleep through the night without waking up in a panic. But the road to recovery had been long and painful, both physically and mentally. Dr. Rodriguez had prepared me for this. She explained that snakebite survivors often develop PTSD, with studies showing that between 8% and 43% of victims suffer from the condition. My physical recovery progressed faster than the mental one. After 6 weeks of intensive physical therapy, I had regained about 80% of the strength in my right arm. Robert Chen, my physical therapist, told me I'd been lucky. Many cottonmouth bite victims lose muscle function permanently due to the damage caused by the venom. Cottonmouth venom is hemotoxic, Dr. Mitchell explained during a follow-up. It destroys red blood cells and tissue, causing necrosis. You responded well to Crofab, but not everyone is that fortunate. Crofab, I learned, is a monoclonal antivenom used specifically for bites from North American pit vipers, including rattlesnakes, copperheads, and cottonmouths. Each vial costs thousands of dollars, but without it, I might have lost my arm or my life. During my recovery, I realized my experience wasn't unique. Zamar Miller, a 19-year-old from Florida, was bitten by a cottonmouth in 2019 after stepping on one in front of his house. Like me, he spent 3 days in the ICU and needed a walker to fully recover. His story gave me hope. If he could recover completely, so could I. The most challenging part was dealing with the psychological trauma. I developed an extreme phobia of snakes that extended to anything remotely snake-like. Garden hoses, ropes, even long shadows would send me into a panic. Dr. Rodriguez taught me breathing techniques and gradual exposure therapy to help manage those fears. PTSD after a snake bite is more common than people think, she explained. Your brain is trying to protect you from a situation that nearly cost you your life. It's a normal response to extreme trauma. Scientific studies back her up. Research shows PTSD affects up to 43% of snakebite survivors. Other symptoms include depression, anxiety, and even physical manifestations like headaches and chronic fatigue. 6 months after the bite, I decided to return to the house where it all happened. I had hired a pest control company to fully seal the basement and apply natural repellents around the property. David Miller, the specialist, showed me exactly where the snake had gotten in, a small opening between the foundation bricks that I'd never noticed. Cottonmouths are semi-aquatic, he explained. With that summer drought, they came closer to homes in search of water sources. Your basement plumbing drew it in. Entering my old bedroom was one of the hardest moments of my life. Even knowing the house was now completely secure, my heart pounded when I saw the bed where I'd nearly died. I stayed only a few minutes, but it was enough to bring a sense of closure. The final hospital bill totaled $52,000. Thankfully, my health insurance covered most of it, but I still had to pay $9,500 out of pocket. The antivenom alone accounted for nearly half the total cost. Each vial of Crofab was around $3,000. Today, a year later, I still carry both the physical and emotional scars of the experience. My right arm bears 2 permanent circular marks, where the snake's fangs punctured my skin. Sometimes I still feel phantom pain at the site, especially when the weather is damp. But I also gained something valuable, a new perspective on life. Every morning I wake up feels like a gift. Every day I spend with family is a blessing. The experience taught me that life can change in an instant, and we should cherish every moment. I moved into an apartment in downtown Pensacola, far from any dense vegetation. I installed motion sensors in every room and always check my bed before sleeping. It might seem like paranoia, but to me it's necessary for peace of mind. Dr. Rodriguez told me that's normal. Trauma survivors develop protective mechanisms, she explained. The important thing is not letting those mechanisms control your life. Occasionally I still have nightmares, but they're less frequent now. In my dreams, I'm always back in that bedroom, feeling the weight of the cottonmouth on my arm. But now, instead of panic, I feel a strange sense of gratitude. I survived something that kills dozens of people each year. I'm one of the lucky ones. The most important lesson I learned is that while cottonmouth bites are serious, they're rarely fatal if treated promptly. Systemic symptoms are uncommon, and most victims recover fully with proper medical care. The key is reaching a hospital with anti-venom within those crucial first few hours. If there's one thing I want people to take from my story, it's this. If you're bitten by a venomous snake, don't panic, but don't wait. Call 911 immediately. Stay calm to slow your heart rate and get to a hospital as fast as possible. Those first hours can mean the difference between full recovery and permanent disability, or worse. I was bitten while sleeping, in what should have been the safest place in the world, my own bed. But I survived, and I'm here to tell the story. Sometimes that's all we can do, survive and share our experience, so others might be better prepared if they ever face the same nightmare. The cottonmouth that bit me was just doing what cottonmouths do, searching for water and shelter during a drought. I don't blame the snake. I blame myself for not securing my home properly. But I learned. I survived. And I'm grateful to be alive to tell this story.